Hey, Fisker fam. Welcome to another edition here of Ocean Currents. I am one of the co-hosts of the show, Andrew Bock, and today I'm joined actually with Miles Sedgwick, not Bill. Bill was unavailable for this episode, but we had a pretty special episode and conversation that we wanted to bring to the Owners Association community. And so, Miles, thanks for putting this together. I think you're sort of the kind of the brains behind this and the one who wanted to pull this all together. So let's set this up for everybody so they understand what they're about to listen to here.
Yeah, thanks so much, Andrew. This was a big one for us. I think earlier this summer there was a conversation between Mike Tennis of Addict, Chad Sturgill of FOA Hacks and Mods, Brandon Dean, who's a Fisker tech and runs a company called Platinum Precision, and Matt Nelson, who's known as Mountain Ranger on YouTube.
And the forums, not just on YouTube, but he's a Mountain Ranger everywhere.
He does a great job keeping everybody up to speed with everything he's working on. But yeah, so the four of them had a conversation with Will of the Indigo company producing OceanLoop, and also Josh from American Lease. And the conversations they had went in a lot of interesting directions, but we thought it would be good to catch up with them and ask them a few questions about how that's going, and then also talk about some of the things that we're working on as part of the FOA through all the parts that are being shipped around the world right now for Fisker owners, and OceanLink Pro, and a number of other really interesting topics. So we had a chance to sit down with them. It was a really good conversation, and we just wanted to be able to jump in and share that right off the bat so that everybody knows where the idea came from to have them join us. Unfortunately, Brandon was not able to join for this one. Last minute, he had to cancel if something pop up. But we did have Mike, Chad, and Matt on the show, which is fantastic. So without further ado. Welcome, everyone. This Ocean Currents episode is being recorded with some very special guests today. I'm going to ask Mike, if you wouldn't mind, to jump in and introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Mike Tennis. I am the YouTube channel owner of the EV Addict. Used to be Fisker Ocean specialist, but I've diversified a little bit. Still love doing the Fisker Ocean platform as the primary, and just an enthusiast.
We're going to get into a little bit later in the show the starry night look that you have in the ceiling of your Ocean. I want to ask a few questions about that, but we're really glad to have you today. Thank you very much. So, Chad, could you help us out?
Yeah, absolutely. Chad Sturgill. Some of you all know me from the Fisker Ocean Hacks and Mods channel. I've been following along with the whole Fisker journey all the way back when I first started watching Matt when he was on Sean Callahan's Fiskerati podcast, but decided to buy a Fisker Ocean back during the fire sale. So I wasn't one of the unfortunate ones that paid a lot of money for my Ocean. I bought it during the fire sale, and that spawned me to start up a little business that eventually it started off as being called Fisker. I think it was like Fisker Ocean Mods or something. And I was running an Etsy shop. Some of you guys might have bought some stuff from Etsy, but Etsy charges too much. So I ended up shifting it all over to Shopify, started offering key fobs and some other things. And that store is called Electrified Ocean. So you all probably have seen that or even purchased some things from me from there. So thank you for that if you've supported that.
Excellent. And Matt Nelson.
Hi, I'm Matt. My alias is Mountain Ranger. I started my YouTube channel about 7 years ago when I got a Tesla Model 3, and I've been into EVs since my, Chevy Volt was in 2011. So that was quite a while ago. So I've been driving EV since that time, been super interested in it. And the Ocean was my third EV now, so it's pretty interesting to see the progress from a 30-mile range car up to a 300-mile range car in like 10 years. So it's pretty amazing. So I've transitioned I've transitioned my channel from Tesla tips to ocean views, and pretty much still do both cars, but the primary focus now is on the ocean. And since there's so much to cover, I have lots of videos on it. So, so that's basically my story.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. And I should also say that I've only had my Fisker Ocean for about 4, maybe 5 months now. I'm one of the people who decided to buy one recently. And the reason why I bought one is because I'm kind of a do-it-yourself person to begin with. I really like working on cars. So the Ocean is like the perfect kind of car for me. But before buying the car, I was actually watching each of your channels, kind of figuring out what content, was out there, figuring out like, is this car even serviceable? And so you guys represent a portion of all of that knowledge that I was going through and trying to make a decision. So having the opportunity to talk to you today is really great. Really glad you could be a part of the show. And I wanted to just jump in with the topic that is, I think, on all of our minds, which is when we think about right now where we are with the Fisker Ocean, there are a lot of competing solutions, which is really exciting, actually. There's a lot of different people working from different angles on making the car a better overall experience for the end user. And as we all know, whenever there's competition, it generally does lead to a better experience for the average person because they have more choices to make and hopefully really good choices. And so what I wanted to talk about with you all is just big picture where we are right now with the kind of solutions that are available for the Fisker Ocean and what it means right now to have these different offerings and basically thinking about the average person who's just getting the car. What is it that they should know about the current state of affairs?
Well, yeah, I think all of us have a little opinion on that. I'll keep mine short. I would say one of the most exciting things, in my opinion, about getting into this vehicle is we found out it can go offline and still drive. It's one of the, if not the first vehicle, I think that we found that out the hard way, obviously, when the connection went away and the vehicle continued driving. I remember talking to a technician and he said, we don't know what's going to happen. And I think that part alone, to me, as a survivalist in the military as well, with some knowledge in that background, I thought that was kind of cool. It felt a little apocalyptic. Also, being able to work on an electric car, watch Matt's videos, get inspired, take a spin at it, and my buy parts from Electrified Ocean. I, did the key card through his, so that's kind of where I really got affiliated with Chad. So I think the amount of support in the afterlife of Fisker has been awesome and has made owning this car exciting.
I agree with what Mike is saying, and also what you said in the preface of that is having competition does drive innovation, and that's why I'm particularly excited about what we're seeing with OV Loop and Ocean Loop, because the organization that's behind it is their bread and butter is not even the Fisker Ocean. It's their platform and what they're offering for ride share and delivery services for the EV market. So they're not focused on direct to consumer type of EVs. They're looking for providing EVs for people who need them as a service, for delivery, whether it's delivering people or delivering products. And that company is also actively acquiring other companies as well. They just acquired another company that does little tiny EVs that deliver like in neighborhoods. And that was kind of exciting as well. And I don't know how I have no idea how that company plans on taking advantage of any of those acquisitions. But I do know that in my personal conversations with Will Graylin and Igor, the COO, that they have tons of plans for us as consumers of the Fisker platform, and mainly because it gives them experience, and that experience is going to transcend into their other EV market. And I believe that's why it's important and critical for them. And that's why they asked Josh over at American Lease to have the opportunity to do this for us. And obviously they need to cover expenses. So the subscriptions are important to them because of that. And I'm seeing nothing but positive results, no matter how this started in the beginning. I'm seeing positive results now. They're going above and beyond helping people. And that's exciting. That's exciting for, I think, all of us. And we have access to the app, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in the future. But we also are looking forward to the proposition of the other releases of 2.5, 2.6, and CarPlay, and even beyond. And we'll, I'm sure, talk a little bit more about that as well.
Thank you for that, Chad. And so, Matt, you do a lot of reviews of all different kinds of products and services for the Fisker Ocean. So I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are.
Yeah, one thing I want to go back to the beginning of when the Ocean launched, and it's been about 2 years for some people. For me, it's going to be 2 years in October, and we've seen a huge change in the beginning, and also going through the bankruptcy. There were so many unknowns. Some of the big issues were the water pumps, the lack of other ways of accessing the car. Only having one key fob was very nerve-wracking for me. There were so many issues in the beginning that could really derail the ownership process. And I think what we've done the past year has made the car like usable to the point where I don't even think of a lot of things now. Yeah. As long as you take care of the basics, and that got me thinking about the new owners that are going to be arriving with the Chase buybacks.
Yep.
So that's why I made a video of, like, I think it was top 25 things that you should do or at least be aware of on the Ocean. And I think that was a great video. It gave me kind of like a look back of what we've done and what we need to do for the car, for the average owner, what they need to get comfortable with, and some stuff they can do on their own, some stuff they may need a little help from service techs. But I think if you take care of the basics, get the recall water pumps done, get your door handles checked, have at least an additional key fob or a key card, it just, I think, makes the car very usable at this point, that I don't even think about. I think that everything from now on is going to be looking at, well, what spare parts we're going to need for things that wear out. That's, of course, going to be an issue. And I think everybody involved is going to be looking at ways of finding sources for parts that may not exist. For example, the vents, the company no longer exists. So we have to get vents that are in somewhere in the system. Some people may have them. There may be other solutions to fix things like that. Brake pads, for example, we're still trying to work with Brembo to get brake pad replacements. Though, as an EV owner, my 7-year-old Tesla has 72,000 miles and the brake pads still look like new at 7 years old.
Yep.
So I think the Ocean brake pads are going to be good for quite a while. But as far as Chad was saying, at this point now, we're looking at I think the community, as far as getting data for the car, new software updates, there's a variety of solutions, I think, that we're all going to work together in getting them solved.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought up the length of time that you've been an owner of the vehicle, because I think for a lot of people, especially in the early days of having the vehicle, the threat of getting locked in the car or outside the car, or the alarm going off in the middle of the night, or power slowdowns on the highway, those kinds of things were pretty nerve-wracking, and quite frankly, I wouldn't have wanted to take that car on a family road trip at that in the condition that it was in, I guess. But I would say that the apprehension that a lot of owners have, even to this day, new owners, old owners, people who've had the car for 2 years or people who've had the car for 2 weeks, still have a lot of anxiety about things that could go wrong with the car. And part of that is because of the relationship that they had, or the things that they've heard on the internet, reviews and all kinds of stuff, that were done poorly by the Fisker when it was still operational. And so those kind of lingering anxieties are still out there. And I wanted to ask you all, with that vision of where we're going, how do you respond to people who might have a lot of anxiety or might be really worried about things that are happening right now? People might be concerned about getting an update to their car that causes more problems than it's worth. Like a really recent example that we've been hearing a lot about is folks getting the 2.2.3 update and then getting an ICC boot loop, so their screen's just looping constantly. What are some of the things that you think new owners or existing owners need to know about how this current state of the car is going to be handled?
Well, if I may, because I'm actually pretty passionate about the improvement in this process that I've witnessed, and I want to disclose I was with FOA in the very beginning and still am an FOA member. Their lap, their app, OLP saved me while I was needing a quick VCU reset. So I want to do a shout out, and so in an unbiased statement, I want to say what I've really appreciated about OLoop and the OVLoop team is having that intimate support. Where they are right now is not the same as where Fisker was, 2 years ago when Matt and I purchased our vehicles. They are able to actually dig in and look at each module. So if a new owner is going into this, yes, there's some knowledge they have to have. Is the vehicle OTA capable, over the air update capable? Does the vehicle have replaced water pumps? Does the vehicle have most of them are going to have Gen 1A handles, so their NFC reader may go out, may not go out. I personally put a PPF or paint protection film over that to try and prevent water intrusion to slow that down, because Gen 2A handles do cost a little bit of money. But for the new owner, I think one thing that I really appreciate about this company, and I'm thankful there are so many options for us to have to take care of this vehicle right now, but they are able to look at each module and diagnose the car. They have walked through some of the most complicated situations that I've heard. The ICC boot loop, they have looked at it. They've said, well, this vehicle going up to 2.2.3, you referenced that software. This is the issue we foresee. Can you put your 12-volt battery on a tender? And one thing we were told is most vehicles, even if the 12-volt battery is original, it is no longer going to be a concern. Where we used to say, replace a 12-volt battery, just do that out of peace of mind. I personally still would recommend that. I've seen Teslas and Rivians and everything that's EV shut down because of a 12-volt battery. So it's good practice, but I would say just the peace of mind that they can diagnose and look at the car from a magnified to a microscope perspective and say, this is going to work or this is not going to work. We're not going to try it.
Yeah, and to kind of add on to that, I would say, you had mentioned some of the things that need to be done, and like I'm talking to a person right now who got cold feet on buying an Ocean, and that particular person happens to be down in Florida, Mike. They were trying to buy an Ocean, and the person they were buying it from sold it out from underneath them, and they were like, oh, well, maybe we'll just wait. And they bought some products from me, and now they're wanting to know if they can return them. And of course, I'm going to allow them to return them. If they're not going to buy an Ocean, they no reason to keep these parts. But I'm trying to give them comfort in knowing that, there's a support mechanism out there. There's people, the OceanLoop, through OVLoop and through the community. Just ask people, and people will help you, right? So, but also be cautious. There are some trolls out there that want to do nothing but just watch anything related to Fisker burn, and that's because they lost a lot of money in investments, and they're still trolling the communities. Sure. And you just got to be careful of who you talk to. I think if you go into a purchase with an open mind, open eyes of what you're getting into, if you want a car that's completely functional, driving it away, make sure that it's all the way up to date, 2.2.3. Make sure that the water pump recall has been done. Ask them about the Gen 2A door handles. If they haven't been done, ask for them to maybe give some kind of a credit for that. Make sure that all the wiring harnesses have been properly vetted and checked and sealed. We talked in the beginning before we started recording a little bit about that. The wiring harnesses were made by a company called Lear. Lear used some of their connectors, and they used some of other connectors. Unfortunately, a lot of the Lear connectors are not as water tolerant as they should be, and they're taking out water, and because of that, it's causing electrical connection issues, and that can cause a whole slurry of other issues downstream, including killing your 12 volt, causing ECUs to not work properly, causing the air conditioning to not function, causing the car to not go into gear. There's just all kinds of things that can happen as a result of that. So if you're looking at buying a car, get into the Facebook groups, look at other people, how they've done it, ask for advice, read, search, always use the search function and search for things, and look at anything that's pinned at the top of the groups. A lot of times that's going to be helpful because those are going to be things that are important that you should know, and just get into the community and talk, and people will help.
Okay. Matt, I wanted to ask you a specific question that's a little bit more targeted, and that is that you have dedicated your YouTube channel to helping Fisker Ocean owners learn how to do things themselves, like, changing out parts of their car. Or I remember one night I had the alarm going off at 10 p.m. and many people have told you this, I'm sure, but I was watching your tutorial while I opened the hood and pulled out some fuses to turn that damn alarm off. So you've been a real resource to the community, and a lot of people are really grateful for that, myself included. But you also are in a position, I think, where people look to you as a source for information. How do you approach different offerings and how you present them to your audience?
Sure. Thanks for the kind words. I'll give you a good example. The aero flaps that were originally with the car degraded usually within months or to a year of ownership. So a number of different companies, individuals really, people with 3D printers and other resources have come up with solutions. And I've had at least 3 different versions on my channel that I've covered. And I didn't specifically tell people to get this one or that one. I recently did a 10-month long-term look at the 3 different versions, and I was able to tell which one I like better. In that video, I did give my opinion on, I think this one is the best, this one's second, this one's third. I usually don't do that sort of thing, but sometimes when you're presented with a bunch of options and you don't know what to pick, I try to give an informed opinion, or at least when I do reviews, a fair opinion on the product, and let people decide if they want to purchase it or not. So,
right. No, I mean, it's just an interesting point, because I think if we were to look at a specific example beyond the one that you just gave, if we were to talk about app functionality, and I know it's a little bit early days with OceanLoop, you guys have access to an app that most of us don't. And so when we talk about, functionality of an app, or when we look at the ability, like Chad was just saying, to at least, for on Indigo's side, to be able to diagnose the car remotely to determine what's going on if there's an error. The app that the Fisker Owners Association has been able to create, OceanLink Pro, has a lot of really great functionality built in to help you also get all the diagnostics that you could need in order to give that to a service tech and say, what's going on. So obviously you need somebody who's informed to the degree that a service tech would be able to look at that report and be able to make a decision with you. But when we talk about different apps, how are you, and Matt, I'll jump to you again just real quick on this one because I'm curious about it. How are you hoping to be able to provide both of those solutions to your viewers?
Yeah, I've done 3 videos so far on the OceanLink Pro, and all 3 are beta versions. In fact, the very first one I did was a very early beta version. And I tried to cover all aspects of like how a user would use the app. So I basically go through the process of like downloading it, logging in, and showing the basic functions. And with beta versions of these apps, I didn't dwell on if I had a specific problem with the app. I usually, for a beta, I'm not going to focus on that. I want to just present the usability, like these are the functions this app is supposed to provide. I want to usually just go over these items and present the owner with what it's capable of, and I will go through that. And I don't really go through what I would normally do with if it was a review of a final product, where I would say, hey, these are the pluses and these are the minuses, and that sort of thing. So I think betas are a little bit different situation, and I think I'm going to be looking at both OceanLink Pro and OceanLoop, both of those apps kind of the same way at this point, because they're both going to be betas. I haven't done a video on the OceanLoop app yet. Because we're still testing things out. We just got it this past weekend, so it's pretty early stages. So I think I'm going to be probably doing a same sort of video where I show the functionality and how I would use it.
Can any of you talk about what the app currently offers in terms of functionality?
I can talk a little bit about that. The one item that I find to be like so helpful, and I just used it today. I had to go to Ace Hardware and had to buy this little tiny gasket, and of course I knew I was going to be in there for 15 minutes searching through the bins, and so I set my car, locked it, and we all know that when you lock your car, everything turns off, and it's 90 degrees out. So I went ahead into the OceanLoop app, and I turned on the or I basically said climate on for 15 minutes, and it turned everything back on and started my AC back where I left it off. My car's locked, and I ran into the store, and I was in there for 15 minutes like I thought I would be, looking for this little seal. And when I came out, I unlocked the car, got in, and it was nice and cold, so it kept my car AC running while I was in the store. And I could have actually been in the store and done that because it's all going over the 4G connection. So that's one of the functionalities that I think is hands down the winning feature of the app is the climate control, the ability to lock and unlock the doors remotely through the 4G connection is great. The ability to open the hatch and close the hatch is also there. California mode is also there. It also allows you to do the BLE key. Now, I'm personally having an issue with my BLE key, which they can't diagnose. They don't know what's going on with mine yet. They're still working on it. But I think the other guys here have been able to get that to work. And the idea there is just the same as using a key. Like you don't have to have a key fob. You don't have to have an NFC card. You can just use your phone. You can walk up, unlock the car, and then when you get in the car, you can hit the key button and the car is ready to drive. And so once they get that worked out on my side, I think that'll be functional. And I think that's the base functionality right now. Did I miss anything, guys?
I think there's mapping too, right, on the bottom of it, where you have you can find out location of the car.
You can also flash your headlights. So if you're in a parking lot and you don't want to make all the noise, you can hit the flash headlights. And, we've given some feedback on that where, maybe incorporate a fun little Easter egg or something, or flash it 5 times, and they love the feedback. So hopefully we see, some of this feedback incorporated. But I could say I just completed it was roughly 360-mile journey back road trip, and I used the phone as key. That's something that a lot of people have talked about. And at first, I was like, maybe it's not working, but I followed exactly what they said to do, and I hit the key, and everyone's seen a screenshot on the OceanLoop page, but I hit the key, and sure enough, the vehicle was able to drive. And I thought that feature kind of going back on what Matt said earlier, we came to this world with a single key fob. We've,
Yep.
through extra key
Absolutely.
fobs and key cards, we've gained a little bit more access to our own vehicles. Now having that phone as key, it just takes us that much closer to 2025, which it feels good. So I could say there's more to come, but those are the features right now in the beta. And the exciting part, a lot of people saw the UI of it. Well, the UI is one of the simplest things to change. And I thought, a dark background would be great. So I gave that feedback.
Yeah. And
So it's still very, very early days then, sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have about 17 functional features requests and I have exactly 17 UI UX enhancements, and I'm tracking 6 bugs. That's me personally, and I think between the 3 of us the 4 of us, because Brandon's not here, I think that's what we found is about 6 different bugs. Yesterday, I said it was 174 degrees inside of my car, so I knew it was at 174 degrees. And after I started the car and then locked it again, it somehow managed to realize that it was more like 80 something degrees. So there's some little things. It also thinks my mileage is about 92 miles higher than it is. So I don't know why. I think everybody's seeing that. It's calculating miles a little bit differently. And some of the bugs that I'm seeing, these guys are not seeing. Like my GPS location was off, but that could have been my car reporting the wrong GPS location. So yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of enhancements. They're really excited about the feedback we're providing and the functional feature requests. Like one of the ones that I really liked that somebody asked for was scheduling cabin preconditioning. So like if you get off work every day at 4:30 and you want to come out your car and have it nice and cool or nice and warm, whichever one is important to you, that's something that I think is absolutely doable, because that's more of a app functionality issue than it is anything, and they can do that.
Right. And this is just out of curiosity, and then I'm going to go into some specific questions for each of you individually. But for the 3 of you, when you think about how many hours a week you focus on either doing those bug reports or promoting this product on social media, like what kind of hours are we talking about that you spend like promoting this solution?
I could say I spend a lot of time on the Facebook group, and I've pulled back a little bit because I seem to, sometimes I come off a little bit blunt. And my goal is always, as a military person, is to try and get people from A to C, sometimes not needing to stop at B. I do take on that feedback, and I'll talk to my guys here and I'll say, hey, how could I better approach this? I'll get a different, but I say the majority of my time, tailoring back to the question, is spent actually helping people in a community way. Like, hey, I've got this going on with the car. What could I try? Or what are different ways? And most of those hours are spent in direct messaging in the background, connecting people to different avenues to service the car. So the happy part that a lot are experiencing with getting the OTAs and getting the customer service, there's still 50% of that where we are just encountering normal owners who want both to be connected through the OceanLoop efforts, as well as still receive the additional knowledge that us 4 are intimately providing that particular group, because we can speak on behalf of a group that we are the admins of. So I would say the marketing side, not so much anymore, because the product's speaking for itself. They're working hard, Monday through Friday, sometimes on the weekends, answering hundreds of service requests. And they're babysitting every vehicle to make sure it's getting these OTAs. So in the beginning, we had to speak a little bit more about that. Now it's the experience is good. immediately they will go to the social media and say, hey, I'm in the middle of Norway. This worked out perfectly. And everybody's got anxiety about OTA. So
Yeah.
our part is helping them through the communication with the company. And the company is OVLoop being the company. They want the feedback. When somebody is saying, hey, I'm running into this, it could be as simple as look in your junk mail. And now there's the email that they've been trying to communicate with them.
Thank
Which
you. And maybe, Chad, I'll throw this one to you because we talked about this before we hit record, but tell me a little bit about how you approach how many hours you're putting into this. And then could you also answer the question for our viewers and listeners as to whether there's compensation being provided to you all for doing that?
So my wife would tell you that I'm spending entirely too much time on Fisker. She says, Fisker this, Fisker that. But I would say, as far as like promoting this, I don't know that I look at it as promoting
Okay.
OceanLoop as much as I am just trying to help people, like to what Mike was saying. If anything, I spend a lot of time dispelling myths, like, and noise. People come to the social media outlets and they claim something happened, or they say something negative, or it's going to be this way, and it's really not. It's not that way. And so I have to, and it gets a little bit argumentative, like just like Mike said. And we're not trying to fight with people. We're just trying to tell people our observations. This is not.
Mm-hmm.
I want this to be successful selfishly for my own car, but also for everybody else, because I honestly love this car. This car is awesome. It's the coolest car I've ever owned, and so that's why I do this. It's not about compensation. I'm not getting paid. None of us are getting paid. We haven't taken a penny from anybody. American Lease, Indigo, OV Loop. None of us have taken a penny. At one point in time, we were told that they may give us free subscription services. That hasn't happened yet. We've all paid now $100, $50 for 2 months. I suspect we will, like the four of us will get the 2.5 and 2.6 at no cost, because they have to give it to us to install it. So there's going to be some things there, but I don't suspect that we're going to get anything compensation wise. Definitely not worth the amount of that would be worthy of the amount of time that we have spent on it, and helping and filled. We're kind of like first line defense and the forums, and because we answer a lot of questions and we try to help people, guide them, tell them where to go, and really get them to use their voice to talk to the people at OV Loop, because that's what we found has been the biggest problem, is people sign up and then they don't say anything. And then they haven't heard anything for 3 or 4 days. And they're like, well, I didn't get an update, or I didn't get an answer. Well, did you try reaching out to them? There's this contact us form. And if you reach out to them, they will reply, and they'll reply to you usually within an hour. And once people do that, they find, oh, wow, these guys are really responsive, barring that their email wasn't going to spam, to Mike's point, because we've had a few of those as well. But I think that's really what it is. And yeah, I spend a lot of time doing this because I have Electrified Ocean, and I also spend a lot of time doing that. And also just I'm an admin of the several Facebook pages, Fisker. I think I'm worldwide now,
Worldwide.
and that's something Mike added me to, and a Florida group, and also Ohio group, and Hacks and Mods channel, and I'm a moderator over at the OceanLink Pro. Maj made me a moderator. I used to be an admin, but I'm a moderator now. So yeah, so I'm helping is everywhere I can. And Facebook, in their infinite wisdom, decided to take me out of community chats. I don't know why. It's AI misrepresented something I said as a financial fraud tactic, which wasn't the case. But at any rate, so I can't participate in the community chats right now until I get that resolved. But I'm as active as I can be everywhere I can. I would be active in the FOA community if I was not kicked out of there, but I'm happy to do that if I'm ever added back in.
Let's talk about it. I mean, what do you think? Why was that? Why did that happen? Again, I'm a I'm a new person here.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the FOA really quick. And then Matt, I have a follow-up question for you.
Yeah, so it was no mystery that the FOA and I had some I don't know, disagreements early on around the key fob stuff that I did. I released my key fob business, and a couple of days later, I was told that they weren't supporting that and that they were going to go a different direction, and I felt very slighted by that. And the fallout of that was I was removed from a lot of the internal FOA discussions. I was in the FOA groups. I was involved with a person who uh, wanted to get to the bottom of a few things earlier, like months ago, around the relationship between Fisker Owners Association and American Lease and Indigo, because Indigo was kind of being kept incognito at that time, and they just, this person, and I'm not going to mention names, but this person wanted to understand what contractually was allowed to be done, and if the FOA had the rights to do some of the things they were claiming to do before he forked out $50 or however much money, $250 or $600. And he couldn't really come to those answers. And I think what we found was there was definitely some issues with contracts and other things that were maybe not in place, and that's what he was trying to get to. And tossing some of that language around back and forth through chats, probably my name got brought up. I was made an admin of his group. Wasn't something I asked to be, but I was made an admin, and of course I do a good job adminning that group just like I would anywhere else. And I have similar questions about, or I had questions about things that were going on, and as such, I was removed from the FOA pages altogether. I think it's been said that I claimed that I was going to put a lawsuit against them. That is not true. I never once said I was going to sue them. My comments were, if you don't represent yourself clearly and you make misrepresentations about what services you're offering and you don't fulfill them, people may come after you legally. And they misconstrued that as a threat. So it wasn't a threat. It was a warning. That was just a like helpful hint or a tip, if I may, to say, hey, you should be careful. You should really be more transparent and clear about what your offerings are. So that's what happened. I actually hoped that the FOA would be successful. Situation we're at now, I think our best option for updates and support is through OceanLoop, because they have access to the IP, they have the legal rights to everything. I'm not saying that FOA can't have a place in this. I'm not saying that they can't be beneficial or even have their options that are different than. But I think what it does cause is confusion. It causes a lot of confusion in the owners, and it causes divisiveness between the community, and that's what I don't like. I don't like that there's this tit for tat, this versus that. To me, that's toxic. It's not helpful, and I think in a perfect world, there would be a way that we all get past this and we look at what the best options are. And I think the four of us, and I can't speak for everybody, but I think we're somewhat in agreement that OceanLoop is probably the best option for the owners long term.
And when you say the four of us, just to clarify, that means Brandon, because
it's not here. The four of us have been kind of working together, and I'm sure we have disagreements on some of this stuff, but I do believe that knowing what we know about intellectual property rights and software licensing and access, regardless of how we got here, I'm not trying to throw any mud towards how we got here. What I'm trying to say is that it is what it is. Where we're at is where we're at, and we know who has access to the software and who has intellectual property access rights and who can do homologation as an EV company. So if we want homologated features, we have to rely on a company who can do that and do that legally and take on some of that effort. And that to me is our only option is OceanLoop, aside from any kind of hack that we may have to create, which puts us all.
Let me jump in on that, because I feel like the word hack needs to be clarified a little bit here. So this is this is actually the heart of the discussion for me, and this is where my decision to buy a Fisker Ocean actually came from. I found it to be a fascinating moment in history, actually, looking big picture, that when a company at this stage in the game making an electric vehicle, which is a very complex vehicle software-wise and how it was put together, when that company no longer exists, what happens to that car? And what does it mean to be an owner of a car when the cloud services, the connectivity, all those things are really important? And who owns that? And who ultimately has the right to make changes to how the car runs? These are not smartphones. They're not iPads. They're very heavy vehicles that get us from A to C, as Mike would say. But the point is, they're also dangerous and they can kill people. And so we need to be really careful how we as owners take care of our cars and how they're serviced, and how, to make sure that the failures that we've all identified that Fisker messed up on, really, or some of the other vendors like Lear and others, we need to make sure that we fix all those things. And so what's really interesting to me about what you all were just saying, and what I'm picking out from what you were talking about, is this concept of community, helping people, jumping in online and helping to make sure that people know about the options that exist, making sure that people are aware that there are different solutions to solve problems that they're having. That community mindset is what I actually love about the FOA. Ultimately, what this comes down to for me is having a car that has, a really strong community behind it, and that community is essential to making sure that our cars are treated with all the best possible options that are out there. So I think personally, the FOA has a really valuable place to serve, and I think that the solutions that are being delivered by FOA are actually very interesting. And to be fair, also to the process that we're in with the FOA, some of the things like IP are still in the decision process is still with the courts. But when we talk about things like IP, there are decisions that are still pending. There are key moments that we will find out, I think, in the near future about how the car's intellectual property and software and access to that code can be handled in this current situation that we're in. This is uncharted territory, really. This is the first time in the history of the world that a company like Fisker at this stage, 2025, no longer exists. And what do we owners get to do or not get to do when their systems have dissolved? So I think that I wanted to jump in and say that because I feel that it's important for people to know that this community model is one of the things that really brought me into why I wanted to buy the car. But then it's also really interesting to hear you all talk about it, because it sounds like you're also just as interested in the community. And so why can't we find a way for solutions to exist across several different avenues? It's not like A or B scenario. I think one of the things that a lot of people are looking at right now with skepticism is whether if they do choose one direction or the other, will they be locked out of the other option? That's a major concern for people. If they decide to go the FOA route, for example, and get PKC 21, which is a really key feature to being able to lock and unlock your car with your phone, which is a lot of people want to do. If you take that update, are you then not able to get service from OceanLoop in the future? A lot of people want to know that, and I think that the answers out there have not been exactly clear. So there's some, I think, clarification that needs to be done in that regard.
If I may,
Please, Nick.
yes. Every time we've seen, and that's a valid question. Every time we've seen a question like that, the very first place we go is to our very privileged email communication with the CEO directly. We say, hey, and everybody's always CC'd on this email. When I say CC, this is the engineering team, this is the marketing team, this is the finance. Everybody sees this transparent set of emails. So we say, is there anything that will cause a lack of existence between OLP, between the FOA, between PKC 21 and OTAs? And so far, what we've gathered, and Chad alluded to this in the beginning, there is no effort right now that needs to go to PKC 21. And that's not to say there won't be, but the server connectivity accesses PKC 20 differently. So a lot of that preconditioning things that are currently working, they don't need that. So when we asked this question directly, they said there is nothing that they can see that would downgrade or cause conflict. They would like the two to live cohesively, but it is very transparent that they are a company, just like Fisker was a company, that has to pay certain bills in order to keep this very complicated vehicle alive.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that's brought me some peace is I love the advocacy of the FOA and I love the access to parts and service. But I appreciate that an EV company, an EV minded company, is taking the lead on some of this area and a company that has security in mind. So that's where I identify in that realm,
Mm-hmm.
if that answers that.
No, it definitely does. I mean, I think that for many people, the decision to go one way or another is still pending because I think people want to see delivery of promises. I mean, Fisker didn't deliver on so many promises, so people have a history with this car of not getting what they paid for. And so, first and foremost, when anything is offered, it's like, let's see it. And I think that was one of the major things with OceanLink Pro that I really loved was that Maj and Guillaume and many of the developers on the FOA team said, look, this app is like beta. Okay. But people really want to see what it can do. We've been talking about it for months. Let's put it out there. Let's let people test it as well as they should know that it's, early days. But then what they did was in broad daylight in front of everyone's eyes every single day, pushing out updates, making it better, adding new features, making a light show. You can add a music track now and it'll play a song and your lights will play along with the music. I mean, it's a really cool thing that they're doing to make this a fun experience for people, but also to give power to people and say, look, diagnostics are key to getting your car serviced. So we want you to have the ability to do that. And we want you to have the ability to unlock your car and all those kind of things. But I think this is really where what I'm trying to get across in this conversation with you all is living in a world where there are competing services. We should also be thinking about ways in which to make all of this work together instead of making it work against each other. So I think for whatever the past grievances might have been, Chad, maybe I'm talking to you on this one. Are there ways that we can now move forward and find ways to solve problems together that don't lock each other out of of the offerings that are out there right now? That's the main thing that I think we're all looking for.
Yeah, and as far as obviously we can't speak on behalf of OVLoop and To Go because they're essentially two separate companies, but they're both in kind of in the works behind the scenes. Mostly OVLoop at this point. In the beginning, it was Indigo, but mostly OVLoop now. But they're owned by the same person, Will Graylin, and American Lease has kind of stepped aside. They're just they're a customer and an investor of those companies, right? So we can't speak on behalf of them. And I know things has happened between the FOA and American Lease, and I don't know what's happening there. I just know that there was a divorce. There's a divorce, and those two companies are FOA and American Lease, and as a result, OVLoop is likely not going to work together again.
That's actually, I'm sorry to jump in, Chad. That's actually a key question that I had for you, and I'm really glad you brought this up. Can the FOA have a relationship with OVLoop outside of the
That's not a question
relationship with American Lease?
That's not a question I can answer because it's not something that we intimately have any knowledge of. We just know that there was a separation. We don't know what all happened to create that separation. We just know that it happened, just like everybody else. And as a result, we don't know how it's possible to bring those two groups back together. I think if I were sitting in the FOA shoes, I would be picking up a phone and calling Josh and saying, hey,
why
can we get past this? I don't know if they're doing that. Maybe they are, but that's one of the steps that I would be doing because I don't know how, because Josh at American Lease is really the orchestrator of things moving forward because OVLoop is in the position that they're in because of his investment into their company and asking them to be part of that cloud operation. So they're taking
Yes,
direction from him.
but on the just to I guess add the counterpoint to that though, Chad. On the other side of the equation, the FOA counts on a large number of Fisker Ocean owners, and so the question is really, I think, with the presence that FOA has and the membership that FOA has, a relationship directly with OVLoop seems to make the most sense, just because they're the company that has the ability to provide the solution. So it seems like it would probably be in everyone's best interest just to have FOA talk to OVLoop directly, don't you think?
I think
And
the question to ask is, one entity is a company. They require capital to run. The other company is an association, and most of us are a part of associations. It's, to me, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
speaking ignorantly because I'm not on the board, not so transparent what my dues. I see great products. I've used, and I made a very awesome, fun video with the OceanLink Pro. I tossed the
Mm-hmm.
key and I used it to get out of a pain. But I guess one is transparent, saying we owe this amount of money to this person. How could that relationship combine, because both want money for something? So it would only, unless there was some kind of president to president conversation, uh, one needs money and one wants money to to to
Well,
to
yeah,
advocate on behalf of the owners, right?
right,
I'm not taking that
right.
away. I'm not taking that away.
No, there's definitely. I mean, money is required to make certain things work, and that's the way the world works.
Yeah.
But what I would say is that with everything that the FOA has done, and this is just from my perspective as somebody who's still obviously new in the FOA because I'm a new Fisker Ocean owner, um, the town halls are open to all members every single 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, there's open format, open discussion, open information. Everything is shared. This is what we're working on. This is what we've done. And then all of that is shared on Discourse, which members have access to, and Facebook page. And there's a never ending stream of like, this is what we're doing. This is what Tsunami, the parts supplier in the United States, in North America, has been able to do. We've gotten all these parts. You can now get windshields. You can get all these things that, quite frankly, are pretty amazing to have available to owners. And then Tidal Wave on the EU side is offering the same. Plus Undercurrent, the software side of FOA, doing all of the work with OceanLink Pro. I mean, all of this is like open and transparent. But what I would say, actually, and this is where I'd be curious, Matt, to your stake in this or your opinion in this. I'm pretty sure that you follow those town halls and you are paying attention to what is shared. What do you get out of it, and what do you think about this whole discussion about a community-centered model? What are your thoughts?
Yes, I do watch the town halls pretty much every 2 weeks. And if I don't, I usually try to catch up on them with the video replay. I think they are very helpful, but I think it is still through the lens of FOA's management of what's presented and how things are answered. I don't know if everything is answered to the way that some owners want to see answered. That's just my personal opinion on that. But as far as community goes, yes, I think everything depends on the community. One thing I want to get back to is you said about an either or choice. I think there's three choices. I think there's also a group of people that wants to be disconnected from everything and have no
True.
cloud, they want to be totally disconnected. And I can see aspects of that because cars have become very connected. But the problem is the Ocean has been designed as a connected vehicle. And I think it's very difficult not to be connected as far as in a cloud,
Right.
On a T-Mobile or any other data access. So I think it's important that people are going to have to work together in finding solutions. As Mike and Chad said, I don't know the inner workings of FOA and how the communication is between them and American Lease or OceanLoop would be. So I don't know if I can answer any of that to add any more to that.
I definitely appreciate your insight there on that, and I'm glad that you are able to at least listen to the recordings when you're not able to attend.
If you don't mind, I wanted to add one thing is like I'm not an FOA member for obvious reasons. I had an issue with some of the things they were doing, and honestly, I would have joined FOA if I could have got answers for things that I was worried about. But I just couldn't get anybody to provide those answers to me around contracts and things. So I didn't join, and therefore I'm not on the town halls. So. And I've also been booted from the FOA chats, or the Facebook page. So it's, to me, it like I looked at FOA as they created this as an advocacy group for all owners, not paying members. And I am an owner, and there's certain things I should be able to gain benefit from as a paying member, but I'm still an owner, and so. The advocacy was lost on me when they went to a full subscription model, and it's either you're part of the club and you're contributing and you're gaining the benefit of things like OceanLink Pro and blah blah blah. But I give back a lot to this community. I help. I mean, I was a forum moderator for FOA in the beginning. There's a lot there's a lot of people that should be involved, even if they're not a member. And there's no better way to bring people to membership than to give them access to things to allow them to be a part of it before they start paying.
Let me answer that in two parts, just really quick, and then maybe Andrew might want to jump in with something too. But what I would say is that I think our primary objective in reaching out to you guys for this conversation today is really to say, let's be more open about what's happening, and let's keep in mind the Fisker Ocean owner who may or may not want to choose between these two services, may be really passionate about one, may be passionate about the other, maybe wants to stay completely disconnected, like Matt was just saying. But our end goal is to make the best car for all of us. So all of those past grievances or all of those issues that we've seen happen, I think they really need to be put aside, and we need to look at what are the ways that we can make this the best possible experience for everyone. And what I would counter to what you said, Chad, is that so you might not be able to participate in the town halls because those are conversations for paying members. But you do have access to Tsunami's parts, which the team behind Tsunami has worked really hard to get, and a really impressive catalog, actually, of parts available for the car. I remember my first fear in buying an Ocean was that if I'm driving on the highway and a big rock hits the windshield, that's game over, or it's a $4,000 or $5,000 repair. Now that price has come way down, and it's actually much, much better. So it's just like a regular car now. If you get a crack in the windshield, you can get it replaced. It's not that crazy anymore. So there are things that I think the FOA is involved in that has made the ownership experience better for everyone, including people who are not members. But the end goal is really to make a platform for people to have open communication. And I would just hope that on the other side of the equation, that the experience with OceanLoop is the same, is that it's not trying to lock people out. And I think that's where some people are a little concerned, maybe, because at the end of the day, they are a corporation. They need to make a profit from this. They're not doing it as a charity. And so will there come a moment, where, and we don't know this, I'm sure you can't speak on their behalf, where people are locked out? That's the question that I think a lot of people have on their minds. Andrew, did you want to jump in on anything there?
I think you covered a lot of it. I guess my question to Chad would be, what does a structure look like in an organization like this, where there isn't whether I guess there's a component of paid versus not paid, knowing that what the dues are being used for the most part at this point, legal fees, things like that, aren't necessarily like a direct one-to-one in terms of value back to the individual owner. So I'm curious, what would a structure in a perfect world look like, where you'd say, okay, I can still get access to stuff, and then if I want everything's doing a subscription plus now, right? Everything's so it's like what does that look like in your mind? I'm curious.
Yeah, I think in my mind it's I look at it as there are certain things that FOA has done a fantastic job on, and to your point, I talk to Michael Rosito almost every day about parts of Tsunami, and he's helped me out on some parts. I've helped him out, like I've I've helped them get to their minimum order quantity by placing parts orders through them instead of through some of my other suppliers, just to help. So I'm very thankful of that. However, that's really the only thing that I've taken advantage of, and I could buy those parts directly from the manufacturer as well. I get a small break by getting them through Tsunami. It's not earth shattering, but I would say in a perfect world we would have FOA as more of an advocacy group and not being in the middle of everything. Like, I don't know that they need to be in the middle of everything. Being an advocacy group is what they were created for, what they started out to be, and I really like that mindset. That's what drew me towards them. That's why I promoted them in the beginning, and then when it became more of we got to be in the middle of everything and everything has to funnel through us and we have to be in charge and control of everything, to me seemed no different than a corporation. So that's when things got muddy for me, and when that happened, and I know I'm like have to bring up the past to talk about the future. I wanted to see transparency on, well, if you're in the middle of this, then what does that mean? Because if we're all members, because we were all members at first before there was a subscription, if all we had to have was a VIN, and we all provided our VINs, and some of the questions I had were, well, before I give you money for this new subscription you're charging for, I want to know what are you using the money for, and that's, and if you, what are you using it for, how much do those things cost, and then also, do you have the contractual language that allows you to provide those things, because you are working with entities that are corporations that have intellectual property and things like that. So you want to make sure that those things are in place. I don't think some of that stuff got ironed out. I think that's what led us to where we're at today. Ideally, and ideally that none of that would have happened. And what would have happened is we would have had direct relationship with Indigo or whoever that was at that time, and we would have been working there with them. And I think we have that now. We have what that utopia situation would have been. We have the direct relationship with OceanLoop, with a CEO that's just a fantastic human being and has a success track record of success. And I see that, like, all of his employees love him. They love working for the company. So unlike, nobody liked working at Fisker. It was like, we hate working here, but the technology's cool. The leadership's terrible. But so like when I look at,
I met one or two people that enjoyed it, but I hear you.
yeah, it's so ideally what I would see happen is, and however it happens, is the powers to be that are not the people in this podcast would get together and put their grievances aside and work towards a future. Problem is there's economics behind it. There's money that we, none of us, have any impact. It didn't impact us.
Yeah.
We have no impact of it, so we can't say what's happening there. And everybody wants, at the high level, Fisker Austrian IP Trust, and everybody wants to get paid somehow, and we can't lose sight of the fact that Heights Capital and CVI and the people and Magna, who are all part of that Austrian IP Trust, are still trying to protect their investment in their IP, and they want to get paid somehow. And so through that, the only way I see the FOA being successful in some of their application specific things they're trying to do and offering software updates and stuff is they have to have an IP license, which is incredibly expensive. But OV Loop and the folks over at American Lease already have that. So they can provide those updates very easily because they don't need to access or to have that IP license because they already have it. And if we could get some of the folks over in the leadership of FOA to realize that that is the right path for software updates, for things like that, and not trying to reinvent the wheel with creating their own 4G access and trying to create their own T-box and trying to, because that to me is what's causing the confusion for the owners. That to me is what's causing people to be divided and not know the right path. Because you could have OceanLink Pro as an application and be paying the FOA for that and for the subscription and the advocacy and the legal, all of that, and also be an Ocean Loop owner and subscription. But that would, the way it's structured today, would be $100 a month, and nobody wants to pay that, and because it's too expensive. So somebody has to realize that one thing is not worth the same. And if I'm looking at how much the cloud operations cost at Fisker, I know that's $35 per car per month, and the
And it's
$15.
coming down. It's
Yeah,
coming
and
down.
but that's what it was, and that's what they're tracking on. And the $15 a month goes to Ocean Loop. That American Lease doesn't even get that money. That goes to Ocean Loop and or to OV Loop. So you look at that, and it's like they're not even making any money on this because their payroll is higher than that. They're gaining experience, and they need subscriptions and subscribers to make that successful. So if we want 2.5, we want 2.6, we want one pedal driving, we want all of these other things, we need to support Ocean Loop. But there's so much drama around this or that, we can't get there because there's so many people that are fighting against it. All we're trying to do as and I say the four of us because I'm including Brandon because he's been an integral part of this, is trying to get people to see that they're not the enemy. That they may have been painted as the enemy, and maybe they stubbed their toes or bumped their head in the beginning, and they didn't do a great job in the beginning. And Will's been very transparent about admitting that they weren't great in the beginning. They're past that. They're doing a fantastic job now, and we should just look past that, like you said, and go towards supporting them because they're doing a great job and they're going to do more for us. And this, I mean, we got version 1 of the app and it's actually working really, really well. And they worked with me. The chief product officer worked with me over the weekend to get things working, and that's huge. Like, as a paid corporation, I'm working with the product officer on the weekend. And it's just on a start. It's just fantastic service. So I'm sorry. I know I'm on my soapbox, but that's what I believe the utopia should be. Is like we should have this group doing one thing, and we should have this other group doing the other thing, and they should be working together. And right now, we don't have that.
Mike, it looks like you have something to add.
Yeah, and I'm going to try and keep this quick, for the sake of Miles. He's running a good show here. I want to see the two live together. I do want to see clear, defined swim lanes, and I'm going to use military jargon here, swim lanes. We talked about the car as being capable of being disconnected, but it was intended for a connected world. I would like to see those who can provide the connection in the eyes of an EV world run that part. I want to see the FOA put eggs into the basket on Tsunami. The most amazing parts coming to come out of a collapse of a company this fast. And I want to see continued advocacy for the owners. And that does cost legal fees. Those two things, I think, are the biggest thing an association can provide members. And it's critical to have legal support. We wouldn't have even had a voice at the collapse of where the money is going without the FOA. And I do not ever want to take that away. I think if the roles were defined more clearly that, hey, let's step back from anything that is software and security and give that to them, and we will take on parts, distribution, and legal advocacy, I think there could be a world where we could all live together. But I wanted to keep that nice and short, and I apologize for jumping in.
No, Mike, I think that was really well said. I think you did a fantastic job. I think when I'm listening to that, the only observation that I would make to your statement, and actually everything that you just said as well, Chad, is that I don't hear American Lease being a part of that equation whatsoever. I don't think that they're even in that. They're not part of
really
the
not, but
money that you're being paid.
Yeah, we can't forget the fact that they are the company. They are the company that hired OV Loop to do this job, based on the money that they were given initially to
Right.
keep it running, right? So that's can't ignore the fact that there is a piece and a component there of American Lease being involved.
I'm just going to say something as a person, not as an FOA member. And as a person, I've listened to a lot of interviews with Josh and American Lease. And I think that there's just a fundamental cultural difference between running a company whose goal is to use these cars for a set amount of time to make as much money as they can from rideshare drivers. That's a very different use case for a car than all of us right now on this conversation right now have. Like Matt Nelson, I can guarantee you are not trying to run your Fisker Ocean into the ground in the next 5 years. You take really good care of your car. Your car is probably in the best condition of any Fisker owner that I've ever seen because you've done everything you can to make it run as beautifully as you can. Mike, I'm extremely jealous of the fact that you take your car to the car wash or you clean it yourself. I don't know what you do, but your car is always immaculate. I mean, you guys really stand out in terms of how you take care of your cars. So I think just from a cultural perspective, and this is just me as an individual, I just don't see a link between how one company runs their show and how the regular user, the regular owner like myself, have as a vision for this car. And so that's where I think, and everything you're saying about Will and OceanLoop and what they're doing, I think that having an open mind to alternate solutions is a good thing. Yeah. But I think it's also really important to think about the terms and the delivery and what it means to get service from a company. And then once you have an agreement with a company, how can we be sure that we won't fall into the same trap that Fisker owners had originally with Fisker of promises not delivered? That's the thing that I think people really want to see that is different.
And I do want to at least kind of clarify here. OceanLoop through OceanLoop services, their sole mission is cloud-based operations. That's it. That's what they do. That the fact that they're providing some diagnostics and other things is actually going above and beyond. It's not even what they're being paid for. It's not what they're contracted to do. They're just trying to help people that are in need. Where American Lease comes into play is American Lease is the administrator of the FAST license and the service shop set up. So I just connected Josh with a person down in Florida who has owned a service shop who happened to be one of my customers. I built a good relationship with him, and he replaced his PKC all on his own, but I had to program it for him. And as we were talking, I was like, Josh really needs a service shop down in Florida. Would you be interested in fixing Fiskers? And he was like, absolutely. Josh flew down there, made them a service shop, and now they're going to send people down there and train. So yes, American Lease does play a part in this because they're the ones that are administering the intellectual property of the FAST license and the delivery of that. They're partnering with OceanLoop for the administration of the back end systems of that, but Josh contractually is in charge of setting up those shops and defining who they are and where they're going to be. And so there is still a piece and a part in there of the physical nature of that. And I do see them adding more service providers on. They've also taken a lot of advice from people like us and Brandon about the subscription model, and they've changed the subscription model, and the prices are now more attractive and more affordable. I don't want to speak to that because that's not my place to speak to those things, but I think if anybody is interested in opening up a service shop and servicing Fiskers, they should contact Josh Bleiberg over at American Lease because he is very open to that, especially if you already have an established establishment where you're already fixing vehicles, and especially if you're fixing electric vehicles, he's going to be a lot more open to that, and the cost of doing that is going to be a lot better now. But there is a component there that's still in play that you got to realize there's still involvement around American Lease around the service centers.
That's where I think having Brandon as part of this conversation would have been really great. And hopefully we can get some of his insights at a later date. But I think service techs really do have a role in all this, and their voices need to be heard, and they need to express, not just Brandon, all of them, how they're operating in this environment and how they want things to go moving forward. Because I think if my bread and butter every single day was servicing Fiskers, I would want to know that I have the backing of a company that has my interests at heart and not just their operation in New York. So again, that's my view on it. But I think what we wanted to do just in this particular moment of this conversation is try to come to some kind of concluding thought from each of you. We've been talking, Andrew, for a good while. We've gone through a lot of different topics, but I think it would be really helpful to have, at least from each of you, some kind of concluding thought as far as how you envision things moving forward. The first question that I have in this regard is actually to Matt and your YouTube channel. Your YouTube channel, when you visit it for the very first time, the very first video that you see is the trailer, is the video that you put out. I think it was like over a year ago now, of like, are you going to stay or are you going to go? My question for you is, are you going to update that? And where are you going to go? Like, what's your plan moving forward?
Sure. I'm a FOA member until at least January, and I am going to be helping FOA members this summer when PKC 21 comes out with Brian. He lives in my area, and we're going to be assisting people with that. I am going to be putting it on my car because I want to be I'm willing to put my car up for the good of seeing if it works with the future software updates. I want to know if it does work, with the new OSs that are coming out. So I feel comfortable trying that out. And I think other people want to know too. So I'm firmly in the belief that owners want to see all the possibilities of solutions for their cars, and that's what I believe.
That's really cool. That's going to be a very, very interesting series of videos when you get to that point. So I'm looking forward to that. Mike, I know that you've spent a lot of time sharing information as well on your channel. What are you hoping to do? Like, as Matt put it really well, like, this is, over the next like 6 months, this is what I'm envisioning. So where would you see yourself as well in that kind of short-term space?
Well, similar to Matt, I like to explore all options. Anything that honestly keeps all four wheels on the road, on the highway, is my to and from work relies on. I think I will be in this vehicle short, long term, hopefully long term, until the wheels fall off of it. Chad put something into the atmosphere for my mind to think about, is how great the battery was built. And so when I look at that vehicle in my driveway right now, I am 100% Ocean enthusiast. I sold a Corvette and a Jeep and jumped into an electric vehicle that came out of a box truck. And the guy, forgive me, but I didn't speak his language. He didn't speak my language, but he gave me the key, and that's all that mattered to me. So from the very beginning to this day, I just am thankful for the support, and I want to keep it rolling down the highway with as few problems as possible, but I'm not willing to sit idly and not take chances. So I will join in the PKC 21 should it come near Jacksonville, Florida, and test that out as well.
Exciting. Okay. That's really great. Chad, let's hear from you. What are you thinking?
Well, I look forward to providing more options for the Ocean owners with my Electrified Ocean offering some things that I got in the works. I think some of you guys have definitely been customers of mine, and I have the locking seat storage box that goes underneath. It's fingerprint lock, and it's made out of safe quality metal. So, and it's powder coated, and there's one that's non-locking if you don't want that. If you're a sport or ultra owner, you just want a box. They have a little more capacity than what you get in the original plastic storage boxes, and they're definitely a lot more sturdy. And a lot of R&D in that, a lot of time shipping things back and forth from here to China, like they're made in China. But that, and I also had leather key fob covers that were just recently released, and so I just look forward to like creating unique things for the owners, and I know that I'm not going to like retire on Electrified Ocean, but for me, it's like, what can I do next? What's next for me? I'm going to own this ocean until, like, like Mike says, like until the wheels fall off, and I just keep buying wheels. My wife's actually getting mad at me because I keep buying extra sets of tires. But I think that what's next for me is I'm probably going to buy a Scout, and I'm going to see how I can do this for the Scout. But
Nice.
as far as the
Nice.
ocean world goes, I'm going to continue to be a participant in all the forums and chats. I hate to say that I've chosen sides, but I kind of have. I'm gonna remain on the OceanLoop side as long as they continue to supply services, and I'll help anybody, no matter who they are. If they're an FOA member, a non-FOA member, it doesn't matter to me. I'll help them. I would help the FOA board members. I don't care. I don't. It's not about this or that. I just want to help people, and I want people to know that I'm there to help in any way I can. And one of the things I did is I built a spider cable breakout cable that it's only like I might only sell 2 or 3 of these things. I don't know, but I got a lot of time in them, and it breaks it out from that spider port out to like 12 individual ODB style CAN bus connections, so that the technicians who are connecting to the spider port can easily identify which CAN bus they need to plug into without taking 2 little pins and trying to find the 2 little wires that they got to plug into. And so like that's something that takes a lot of time and energy to create. Something as simple as you would think, just a spider connector is actually it's tedious work. And I've only sold one of them so far, but I got 2 or 3 of them in stock that I've been sitting around on my couch making, and so I'll just keep making that stuff. And as I see that there's a demand for it, I'll make more. And that's I guess that's where I'm going to be. Is just I'll ride the train until the train has no more fuel, I guess.
I'm happy to hear you say that. I mean, I think for the viewers and listeners, I think the main thing that I would hope from this conversation with all of us is that it doesn't have to be either or. It doesn't have to be one way or the other. We're making this available. This episode is going to be for the public, so people will listen to this whether they have a Fisker Ocean or not. And hopefully, the end idea that you walk away with is that there is a lot of really good work being done out there, and it's important for all of us to be in contact and not be at opposition, I think. But Andrew, maybe take us home. Do you have any words of wisdom at the end that you would want to jump in and share with us?
No, just I would say thanks to Matt, Mike, everyone for the content and for all the stuff that has been done behind the ocean to sort of keep us going to this point, right? I don't know how, I think a fun little round robin. How many miles are on your oceans respectively? Mike, how many are on yours?
Oh, 20,000.
20,000?
I'm just behind. I'm like 19,500, I think.
16,000.
16. Okay. I'm at 33 right now, which is insane. I have not been driving it a lot of late because of the door handle issue that I'm just learning more about actually right before coming on this podcast. But what I continue to say is I've driven almost every EV on the market. I've been driving EVs since 2013. I can't find another one that matches the experience of driving this. And I think Matt's solve for the sunroof rattle was probably my only complaint besides the door handles not working. So it's one of those things where you look at the market, right, and there's nothing else that has the combination of everything. And Chad, you mentioned the battery earlier. For a lot of people, I mean, I live in a very remote part of California. There still to this day are not a lot of EVs that offer the ability to charge off of your car and use that as a generator, even in 2025. And that to me is something that remains just a huge bonus and a primary component of why I've held on as long. And hope to be like you guys, driving it into the ground. I'm on, I think, my third set of tires, maybe my second.
Cool.
I don't know. Yeah, but I drive a lot, as you can tell, and it's been a journey. And I hope that we are collectively able to continue that journey and keep them on the road as long as possible.
Yeah. Well said. I've got a small family cabin in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere. And I often joke with my wife that the worst case scenario, this car is going to be the backup battery for that cabin someday. We'll just plug it right into the fridge and call it a day.
Panelist approved.
Now if we could just get
It is.
that photovoltaic cell on top to actually provide some juice to the batteries. It's more of an
that's been my biggest disappointment. Someone asked me that a while ago, and I said that's probably the thing that I feel the most slighted over, because I'm like, I don't know, I live in pure sun that sits outside all day long, and I barely have, like, I think it's up to like 650 miles. It says it's added over the life of the vehicle
really
that I've owned it.
Add that, so I was
that's the software.
Yeah, they never plumbed the software together to actually make those electrons go to the battery. So it's just a novelty. It would be nice if somebody could come up with some kind of a connection that maybe that would be used in a different way, maybe to power the 12
Matt, you're up.
Maybe I don't know. I don't know if I'm that smart.
Well, you guys are tremendously gracious for being a part of the show. We're really glad to have you here. We hope we can have Brandon join in a future conversation. But I think there's a lot to be excited about in the next 6 months. I'm going to be really looking forward to seeing your content. Both, I would say, Chad, all of the stuff that you're putting out on social media, plus Mike and Matt's video content about the experience of trying out PKC 21 and testing out software updates. So I think there's a lot for Ocean owners to be excited about. And we want to make sure that these lines of communication are open so that all of that can happen in the most harmonious way possible. So thanks again for joining the show, and appreciate you, especially to all the people who are listening all the way through. This has been a really good conversation. So thanks, you all.